But then finally we got to, okay, this is a 3-hour show, folks. That's what I'm saying. We got to the meat of the matter, the part that people were waiting for, is we wanted to find out what was going on with Roman Reigns and CM Punk and our friend Seth Franklin Rollins. And the tease was, at first they go to the back, the parking lot or the dock or whatever, and a black limousine pulls up, and it's like a black soccer van limousine, I guess they've got over there, that the door doesn't open like a SUV, that it's a slide open like the side of a van, right? You know what I'm talking about, Brian.
Yeah.
So when the door slides open, you see a couple of hands reach out and grab the frame to pull themselves out, and suddenly out emerges Paul Heyman in a black suit. So it looked like a minivan giving birth to a bowling ball. And he struggled out of the thing and then straightened himself as best he could. And he's walking in. That's the tease for the main event. Did you see that scene? Am I lying with what I'm saying to you?
That scene. I saw the scene, yes. It was one of Heyman's greatest roles.
Yes.
Playing the bowling ball.
Bowling ball. And he cleaned the placenta off himself from his mother minivan. So they go to the segment here. There comes Roman and Paul out to the ring, and there's the OTC chants and some Italian chants and more OTC. And, you know, and Roman, he's starting out as a benevolent tribal chief. He said, your OTC loves you. So I'm going to tell you what's on my mind. And his promo is he believes he's in the right. At the Royal Rumble, CM Punk screwed me. So last week I screwed CM Punk. And at the Royal Rumble, Seth Rollins tried to kill me, so I tried to kill Seth Rollins. And I'm going to be here for the next 15 or 20 minutes. If anybody wants to come out here and confront me, just let me know. And son of a bitch, wouldn't you know who won the pony? Immediately, Seth Rollins they are so over, and this is working with all these people. They don't even have to try. Here's what I did, and here's why I did it. And if anybody has a problem with me, come on out here. Okay, here we go. And Seth comes out, and the whole building is singing at the top of their lungs. Whoa! Well, I see, and they can't all sing like me, so you can imagine what theirs sounds like. And Seth gets in the ring, and there's more singing. Whoa! And Seth,
I apologize for the audio, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you know, now that I've got mine fixed up, you ought to get Hotchkiss. Get him a plane ticket. He'll fly up there and fix yours too. So Seth says, Roman, you messed up here. You should have let me finish CM Punk. You should have let me get rid of him once and for all. But it's always been about you and me, says Seth and Roman, that is, the pronouns pal. And it's time that we added another chapter. And suddenly, like Mussolini in Italy, there he comes. They're singing his song.
Did you do a record scratch?
Yes. And here comes Punk, and now they're chanting CM Punk, CM Punk. I wish they'd have got Howie the mailroom guy on TV back in the day so we could see if we get a Howie the mailroom guy. But no, he's over, and he gets in the ring. And he tells both of them, neither one of you have ever beaten me by yourself without the other one helping you. And I didn't screw Roman Reigns. I didn't screw you, but he reminds everybody that Paul Heyman owes him a favor. And then he says, but Paul, I want to thank you for delivering the tribal chief on a silver platter. And right as Roman looks around at Paul like, you did what? Punk jumps off the turnbuckles and nails Roman with the microphone from behind and gets on him. And then Seth is confused for a second, like, blah, 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 blah. And then he jumps on Punk. And he gets on Punk. And then Roman says, wait a god dang darn minute. And he grabs somebody, and then my DVR froze. But I understand from reading about it that for the next 15 seconds or so, they all just got in an altercation with each other. And that's obviously headed toward WrestleMania. But that was 3 hours of SmackDown. I mean, at least AEW is impaling people for us and giving us fucking little Easter eggs of find the production error and see where the fake wall is, shit like that. But SmackDown's just giving us a travel log on fucking, where's next? Tucumcari, New Mexico?
You know, it's interesting, too, with the Rollins, Punk, Roman stuff. All three guys have legitimate stories with the other ones. Rollins and Roman, of course, goes way back, but they all came in to help Punk. So that ties into it. Doing it as a three-way, is that to you better than over time doing each one of the three independently?
Well, they're going to, or they should, do each of those anyway. But for WrestleMania, and because everybody expects it now, and it's got to be something extra, and you got to, I think that's why they're doing a three-way, but you can't tell me that Punk versus Roman or Roman versus Seth, or it is not a pay-per-view match at some point or another that they need to do. Well, they don't need to do anything, but boy, howdy, in any other era, if you had a match that attractive, you would do everything you could to do it. So I think they got to do them eventually, but WrestleMania is upon us, so they're dropping the cow, as Dan Aykroyd would say.
All right, well, on the topic of, that was SmackDown, by the way, but...
Yeah, it was.
On the topic of Dan Aykroyd, I'm trying to think of something that would tie into fucking Dan Aykroyd. Of course, he was the child of the Miss Daisy character in Driving Miss Daisy. And perhaps, if you were trying to find a transition, but you didn't have your sponsor sheet open, you were looking to drive on over. This may not be a great example. But, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to say is here as we close out another SmackDown on foreign waters, there's a lot of stress. You know, these guys are working a full-time tour.
Perhaps, just overworked.
Perhaps you want to come home after this tour and sit down with your family, or maybe by yourself. Maybe leave the kids away from this. Have a nice glass of wine. Jim, help me out because this is my show.
For God's sake. Well, I'll tell you, you've made me want to have a drink. No, there's some people out there, Brian. Perhaps you're amongst them. You may not know for sure, but they're still shopping for wine like it's $19.99. Back in the old days when you had to go to the liquor store and you had to deal with all of the bums and the winos that permeated that atmosphere. You had to walk into an uncertain neighborhood, sometimes after dark, to come out with your bottle of rosé. Now all of those people that used to be winos are employed because they don't have to spend all of their money on the wine because it's so cheap. From our friends over at nakedwines.com. See how it works hand in hand? Before they were spending all their money in a bad neighborhood, and now they're successful entrepreneurs because the people at Naked Wines have cut out the middleman. And now you can go direct, folks, to over 90 independent winemakers around the world. And the people at Naked Wines have been around for over 15 years. They've got all these connections where you can crack open a bottle of wine. Well, don't crack it open. That's violent. They are glass bottles, but you can open up a fine bottle of wine.
In a classy way.
In a classy way. With your teeth, the way God intended it. Just like Granny Cornette used to do it. And the best part about it is you can sit in your own home after it's delivered to your own home and drink it in your own home while you're naked. That's why they call it naked wines. Because before, back in the old days, when you would go into the liquor store and you wouldn't have any clothes on, you wouldn't even hardly get to the checkout counter with your bottle of wine or three before somebody was harassing you, saying, hey, put that thing away. And even when you put the wine back, they would say, hey, put that thing away.
No.
It would happen every time you went in to buy a bottle of wine if you wanted the naked wine.
Again, let's not talk about whatever was happening over there in Louisville, Kentucky. Back in the day, let's talk about Mr. and Mrs. America wanting a nice glass of wine, an amazing glass of wine. And you can get it from Naked Wines. Nudity need not be applied. Just be ready to enjoy fine wine from fine people and delivery people with their clothes on. Tell them more, Jim, in that vein.
Well, you've taken all the fun out of it if everybody's got their clothes on. But let's say, folks, for example, you and your significant other, you got split tastes. You like the white wine, she likes the red wine, vice versa. You can split a box. That way everybody's half and half. So you can, with your wife, you can have half and half, or you get a whole box, go around the world. And you can cancel or pause at any time. So if you're not going to be, let's say you're going to be out of town until the heat's off on something, probation violation, whatever goes on, you don't want your wine sitting on the porch. You can pause it. And then whenever they catch you and extradite you and you're back in town, boom, they'll deliver it again.
What? No.
Or if you're on vacation for some unknown reason, you can pause it and then boom, you can get sloshed after you get back home from your vacation.
Let's talk about responsible people and responsible drinking. And of course, whatever.
Well, what's the fun in that?
Whatever the situation, whatever the occasion, you want your wine, the wine that you enjoy, and Naked Wines is here to facilitate that in a classy, professional manner.
That's exactly right. So now is the time to join the Naked Wines community. It's down there in Florida, so the weather's usually good and people don't have to wear clothes. It's clothing optional. The Naked Wines community, you can join. You can be a satellite participant, and you can just go to nakedwines.com/JCE and click Enter Voucher and put in the code JCE for both the code and the password. But listen to this. Sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. We're going to tell it to you again. But you're going to get 6 bottles of wine for $39.99 and free shipping. $39.99. The shipping's included. The whole, that's 6 bottles. That's under $7 a piece. For heaven's sake, you can't even get some Boone's Farm for that price anymore. What with the inflationary cost of cheap hooch these days. nakedwines.com/JCE. Click Enter Voucher and put JCE in for the code and the password. 6 bottles of wine, $39.99, shipping included. Boy, I'll tell you what, if you can't get laid with 6 bottles of wine, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Let's not make it about that. Let's make it about enjoying an evening with friends in a classy, responsible manner with fine wine.
Some of your friends may put out. It just depends on how much of the wine you can
use your imagination the old-fashioned way with Naked Wines. They deliver the wines, and they're great. Check them out, friends of ours. Please check them out. nakedwines.com/JCE. Of course, JCE for the password and the code. Once you get there,
I guess you got to use your imagination.
I understand pretty soon they have the Dixie at the Hotel package coming up. We'll have more about that in the...
Does that include a 7-foot giant to sit on your lap?
Well, more about that once again, nakedwines.com/JCE.